back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the K9 episode, The Fall of the House of Gryffen, written by Sydney Armstrong and S.P. Klaust, and is directed by David Nethren. If that's how we pronounce his name, I do apologise. This story is a lot more in its atmosphere and suspense, and brings to light stories like Ghostlight, where you have a very small location. In fact, the story does not leave Gryffen's house, barring a few little inserted scenes featuring Georgie's mother. But the majority of the story is set in the house, and there's this cold breeze, this winter outside, not cold winter outside, this storm outside, giving it this Halloween-like feeling. And it reminds me a lot of the episode Fear Itself, another K9 episode. However, here it feels a lot more dedicated to that horror genre feel. And simply on that note, it's easily the best episode of K9 so far. I know I keep saying that, but this one I do genuinely enjoy. There's still a lot of problems with it, but I can actually imagine myself rewatching this one and having a lot of blast, a lot of fun with it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The story starts off with our characters basically playing chess with Professor Griffith. He's just working out on stuff, and they go into the house and they're just they're talking and chilling and having just a whale of a time with our main characters, Starkey and Darius. They're playing a game of chess where apparently Starkey keeps on winning, despite the fact that Darius has the help of K9. Darius basically tries to put the blame on K9, but K9 is just like, well, maybe you're the idiot in our group. However, there's a massive storm outside, which actually prevents Georgina from going home, and her mother keeps calling her up and is like, I'll pick you up, and it's like, no, it's fine, the storm is really bad, it's probably better if I stay here for the night. It's like, okay, but just be careful, ring me if there's any trouble. She's been a very concerned mother, but her role is very tiny in this, so there's no point really bringing it up. But Starkey goes up to, because they hear a noise, like somebody smashing something, like a window, and Starkey goes in to investigate. Whilst this goes on, the space-time manipulator of Professor Griffith's machine, the one that was seen in to bring K9 to this place in the episode Regeneration, that it suddenly starts activating and suddenly starts purporting itself, open up into a new vortex. Does mean this massive not a continuity issue, but this massive plot hole on how does nobody notice this until the very end. It seems like this room is at the heart of the house, and you would think that if something goes on, this would be the first place that they would expect going on from all the weird shenanigans in it. But you can kind of justify that they somehow found a way to avoid this very large room in the house. But anyway, Starkey goes up to investigate in his room and finds that when looking out the window, a window is open, and he closes it only to see an image of a blonde, skinny child staring at him through the reflection, despite the fact that he's 3 stories up. And he basically explains this to the rest of the team. It seems to have really shaken Griffiths up. Seemingly, he recognises the description of the child, and Darius seems to know something. So Starkey and Georgina basically keep pushing him for some information on what his connection, this child's connection with Griffith. But before I start anything, I just want to say how great this episode looks. The story does have that samey feel with the rest of the K9 stories, especially at nighttime. Stories in K9 have this very atmospheric feel. However, the fact this story now maintains it, it stays here and it stays in this stormy, gloomy environment, and we have a lot of scenes where the lights are turned off and stuff, does mean that the atmosphere and tension stays throughout the episode and has a much more ghost-like feel compared to other stories in the franchise. And we have our kids then telling each other spooky poems and stories before they kind of put Darius into telling them what they know, with Griffith appearing time to time just to check up on the kids to make sure that they're fine, giving them these balls of light which they can use as lanterns, which I don't know if that's a reference to the revived series of Doctor Who, because Doctor Who would use similar technology in episodes like The Impossible Planet, as well as in the Matt Smith era, which actually aired concurrent with this series in the Weeping Angel episode. So it could be a reference to the revived series. If so, that's really... Actually, couldn't be a reference to Series 5, I just realised, because they would, production-wise, they would be in the same time, so it could be a reference to that episode, but it could be a reference to The Impossible Planet, which is really cool, if so. But anyway, the kids start seeing more images of these children, these two kids, this little boy and this girl who seems to be, I think she's slightly older, if I remember correctly. I think the boy's about 8, the girl's about 11, and they start being chased around the house. K9 seems to pick up no lifelines from them, no heartbeat, no physical matter. They just seem to only exist on the light spectrum, and that's it. Seemingly they do not live in any sort of capacity that we know, and they seem to have this almost not zombie, but they seem to be very drained of life in their appearance, and they don't really say much, and they just stand there and they just sort of appear and get Starkey and Georgina to follow them around the house before they gain enough energy from the space-time manipulator to zap the kids. And K9, I love the scene in which K9, he's like, it seems like your abilities only affect living matter, so it shouldn't affect me, who's a technology-based life form. And then the kid just grabs K9's head and it makes him malfunction, basically stating that, you know, these are not normal, regular entities. Earlier on in the episode, Darius actually explains who these kids actually are after he sees them. They are actually Griffith's children, who have been described in episodes like Regeneration. For those of you who don't know, if this is your first of my vlog series that you're watching about K9, the whole series is basically set up that Professor Griffiths is developing space-time technology to go anywhere in space and time. But he had a family, he had a wife and 2 kids. However, something happened and his wife and his 2 kids were sent into space-time in an unknown location. Might have died, might have survived, but he dreams, he hopes, he's been working extremely hard on this technology, as far as we're told, that he's been pushing himself to this technology to try and bring back his family, which led into the events of Regeneration, where he pushes the technology enough that it brings back alien entities, as well as the original version of K9. Also, K9 plays chess in his story, which could be a nod to, I'm trying to think which story it is. It's definitely in the Key of Time. One of the stories in, I believe it's the Repulse Operation, where the Doctor and K9 are seen playing chess. But, so that's really cool. K9 is a huge fan of chess, established here. Established before, confirmed here. So that's really cool, and a nice little nod to the classic series. But the story basically revolves around, Starkey's family, whilst Darius and Starkey, they basically get captured by this, by these primordial kids, and Griffith's wife actually appears to him, and he is like, he's so longing for her and wants to bring her back, but she cannot seemingly return unless they drain the energy of physical creatures, which she plans to use Starkey and Darius to basically absorb their life into the space-time manipulator, into bringing them new physical forms. And somehow, without explanation, which I do enjoy here because it sends a huge amount of atmosphere, and I love how it doesn't feel the need to explain it. I mean, it does like oh my god, like he's forgetting. Essentially, he's being like some sort of tranced into this, and because of that, this sort of trance, he keeps on forgetting Starkey and Darius, making him more perceptible to work with the ghosts, these ghost-like entities. And so when he hears them screaming, and when he goes up to confront them, he has no memory of them, and he's just looking at his wife and his kids, and he's just pining to have them back with him. You can see it in his face, he's longing. And although, let's talk about the acting, because K9 is mostly known for its terrible acting, and that is the same here. They're not well performed. I feel like more that might be rush production than the actors doing a bad job. But yeah, I did generally feel for Griffith. He really brings this sense of sadness to the character here, but I really was enjoying throughout the rest of the episode. And you do generally feel for this character. And Georgina, oh no, sorry, I just realised I've got it mixed up. It's not Starkey that gets captured, it's Georgina that gets captured with Darius. And K9 Starkey comes to save the day and tries to push them out from this energy absorption, which I like to say there's also some technical difficulties here, because in certain shots you have this effect, this energy effect, seemingly taking the life force of Georgie and Darius. However, in certain other shots, the energy effect is not there at all. So, don't know, continuity error. It is really distracting, but in terms of the narrative flow, it doesn't really do much to harm it. And Starkey basically tries to get to K9, and to Professor Griffiths, as K9 explains, he's in some sort of trance, and that he is emotionally connected to these ghosts. The only way to bring him out of it is by reminding him of his family, and Starkey is just like, we're your family, we are your family now. These people, they're not your family because they wouldn't hurt a soul, your real family. These people are hurting the people that you care about. As Griffiths kind of is like, yes, you're absolutely right. These entities hurting people, my family would never do that. And so the energy dissipates a bit as the vortex is still open, and you see the kids are like sadness, and the mother is just like, don't worry kids, it's just not our time yet, let's enter back into into nothingness, into non-existence. And so they dissipate and they go in. I really love this ending because just like episodes that I like with, I always feel like spooky, scary stories like this always work best when there's little to no explanation, because it brings in that eerie sensibility of narratives like this and makes you think about it later on. It makes you ponder questions and makes you think about the episode more. For example, are these creatures in these episodes, are they Starkey's, not Starkey, are they Griffiths' real family that have been trapped in this horrible state, or are they entities like Adam from Torchwood, where they're these creatures that live in non-existence? They basically imprint themselves into the real world, and slowly, by absorbing the memories and loved ones and physical forms of others, do they gain then physical forms, and that they're not actually his family? We actually don't get an answer to this. For all we know, Starkey's, I keep saying Starkey, Griffiths' family could still be out there, although I think here he does kind of leave him go. As far as I'm aware, this is actually the last time that, I don't know if this is the last time they get mentioned, but this is the last time they get an appearance like this. So I don't know if later on it's explained where it really happens. I actually hope we don't get an explanation, because it makes this story, this particular narrative, seem far more interesting. I just realised I talked about that episode like really quick. But there's just a lot there's a lot to like here. The atmosphere, the mood. There's a lot of great scenes, a lot of great development. There's a lot of cliched moments which do have a lot of fun. For example, the whole characters like walking in the dark and then gets jumped by a character trying to gain their attention, which Darius does at one point to Georgie, and he's like, "Don't worry, I was just trying to call you." It's like, well, do it better next time. It's like, "Don't worry, I've got your back." And she kind of really dismissive of that, which is established earlier on in the series that Darius has a sort of crush for Georgina, and like at this point it seems like it's a very innocent move, and later on he does the same thing to Starkey, but as like a joke, as he like makes him jump, but he does it as a laugh to wind him up, saying that, "Yes, don't worry, I've got your back." Which means Darius is a lot more funnier than he is in majority of episodes that he's appeared. Most of all of his appearance so far. And we also have this. One criticism I do have is there's this constant reference to people getting ooze on their hands, and it doesn't really become any part of the narrative. It just seems like it leads into like some small jokes about how slime is always everywhere in K9, which I found was really dull. There's also a really great scene which actually gets sort of repeated in Doctor Who, in the episode Hyde, where Darius and Georgie, they're basically wandering the house by themselves investigating, and something makes them jump, only for them to seemingly hold hands. You actually see a close-up of them holding hands, and Darius is just like, I know we're scared, but we can finally like let go of our like feelings, like we're holding hands and stuff. And then Georgina basically reveals she's not holding his hand. As he looks at his hand, and he's got this green slime, as it turns out the ghost has seemingly been the one to have hold his hand. So I don't know how the slime really works, personally, but But that's only my real main criticism with this story. So yes, I know this episode's going to be really short. There's not really much to talk about in here. It's a very simple plot, a very simple premise. But that's to the story's strength. It does a lot right here. It has this great, creepy, moody atmosphere. It's mainly from atmosphere and suspense. And it's actually an episode which I generally can recommend as a good story. We finally got there. We finally got there in the end. It's well written, well executed. Maybe some of the performances aren't that well played out, but it doesn't really matter because the story is the strongest that K9 has been so far. I just realised K9 doesn't actually get a lot to do here, but that's beside the point. So yeah, Fall to the House of Griffiths. Pretty good story, and highly recommended if you like spooky haunted house stories like myself. I really just gravitate towards these kind of stories. Might not be for everybody. You might watch this and think, it's still as bad as any other K9 episode. That's fair enough. I will admit that a part of me is blinded by the fact that I just love stories like this. So, yeah, actually a pretty decent story in my opinion. So join me next time where the Doctor goes to the old Wild West as he starts fighting or joining a criminal organisation. So join me next time for The Runaway Train, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!